So to learn about consumer decisions, it's necessary to learn about different ways in which people think. The problem-solving mode that we looked at, that really high effort and involvement, is where we engage in the most what is called central processing, systematic, careful processing, deliberate, effortful, rational, systematic thinking, right? Central processing. And examples of central cues would be really product relevant things such as attributes of the product, ratings of the product and the company, customer service record of the company, etc. Some are central product relevant cues. The term for less effortful thinking is peripheral processing. So peripheral cues are more superficial ones, such as very simple heuristics. I'm going to buy this because it's what I always bought before. Certainly not the idea that you want to put a lot of thought into that, right? Quite the opposite. That would be an example of a simple heuristic. Also, simple associations would be an example of a peripheral cue. Even the attractiveness of a model or a product associated with or a model or a packaging color that's associated with the product. Okay, I'm going to buy that because I think it has a really nice color in the packaging. So when we talk about peripheral cues, we're talking about more superficial ones based on less effort. Okay, we're going to come back to this, what is called dual processing models of thought, and go into much more depth later in this class. But the important thing to remember now is that people can process information in two very different ways. Okay. Now we're going to look at some different types of consumer involvement. So there are three different categories of product or consumer involvement, and the first one is product involvement, so the level of interest in the product. Okay. The second one is message involvement, and that is the level of attention being paid to the message, being drawn to that message. And then finally, the situational involvement, the level of involvement in the buying situation. Okay. We're going to look at a number of factors now that can influence these. And we're going to start with this first one, product involvement. Product involvement tends to increase with perceived risk. In other words, if you perceive a risk with buying that product, of course, you're going to think about it more carefully. You're going to care more, right, about it. So starting with this idea, the first one is product involvement increases with perceived risk. The higher the perceived risk of buying or not buying the product, the more that you tend to care about the product decision. And it makes perfect sense, right? But what kinds of risks? We're going to look at a number of them here, starting with these two. So monetary risk. It may or may not end up being worth the money. Okay, so high ticket items get the most consideration, and they're the most sensitive usually to this idea of monetary risk. There's also a most sensitive group of consumers that we can associate with these different risks. And in this case, the consumers with the least money are going to be the most concerned with this risk, the most involved. So the less money somebody has, the more carefully they must spend it. One really low-ball marketing trick that is used sometimes to help alleviate perceived risk is to first mark the product up 20%, then advertise 20% off. Right? Oh, you're getting a great deal. You don't have to worry about whether it's going to be worth the money because you're getting a great deal. Again, low ball marketing trick. Hey. Now, functional risk is our second one. Will this product function the best? Let's say that you are really trying to decide between an Android or an Apple tablet. Okay? That's a pretty high ticket item. hey, that you probably would really think about functional risk. What if you make the wrong choice and find out later that you would have been better off going with the other one? Hey, the consumers who are the most sensitive here are called practical consumers. Practical consumers. This one can be used as a marketing tool or a trick. Let me give you an example. As a tool, they could help alleviate functional risk by telling people that, giving them this return period with no questions asked, 100% refund, right? But it also can be used as a trick. So sometimes companies will offer an unreasonably priced extended warranty. The extended warranty can help alleviate that risk, but when it's unreasonably priced, it creates a new monetary risk, right? That consumers oftentimes are not aware of. All right, let's add some more risks here because there are 3 more that are really interesting. Physical risk. Buying or not buying this product could affect your health or your vitality. So some examples of products that might fall into this category would be drugs. What is the risk of not buying the drug? What is the risk of side effects if you do buy the drug? Motorcycles because of the safety factor. Okay? Foods because of safety and health, right? The people, the consumer groups, plural here, who are the most sensitive to physical risk. We all are, but it tends to be, for most by far, the elderly and people who are really health conscious, those 2 groups. Okay. Now, psychological risk and social risk are a little difficult to tease apart. I'm going to do it for you, but they don't have a really clear line between them, so this is not something I would test you on, is to just knowing what these are, not distinguishing between them, okay? Psychological risk involves the possible harm to your self-image, okay? So let's say that you were considering investing in a stock that was really great yielding, had a great record, but it's oil. And let's say that you consider yourself to be environmentally friendly. Now you've got this kind of juxtaposition here to deal with, right? People who are the most sensitive to psychological risk are those who are the most insecure and the most sensitive. Okay, so the more secure that somebody is in their self-image, the less likely they are to be concerned about that. But a lot of people, this is a factor. And then social risk is embarrassment with your reference group. So the group that you truly belong to, that you want to belong to, that you feel, that you're a part of. Different products, different companies, different products have different status, like clothes or houses that we live in, neighborhoods we live in, cars that we drive. So neighborhoods we buy property in, automobiles that we drive. Hey, and so the social risk would be buying something that is not connecting you with your reference group. Okay. So a number of different factors here that are involving this idea of product involvement. So in our next segment, we're going to look at message involvement and situational involvement, the other 2 factors that can affect those.